But I like to talk about other scenes as well, because that's not the only scene. I just feel like the younger generations tend to just think the scene is that era. But literally every decade had many scenes. So I'm just going to touch on that as we go through. But I'm going to go back to a haircut that I created once I was at Paul Mitchell, known as the Erica. So it's going to be a variation of the Erica haircut. It's called the Erica because that was the name of the model. She was a student here in San Diego at Paul Mitchell, the school. I'd obviously played around with the technique before. It was most likely on my ex-wife at the time. But yeah, it became quite a very popular technique for me, and I got to take it all over the world for many years. So I'd like to kind of go on and cut that one. So what I've done is I've sectioned everything away. Basically, this is quite a common sectioning that you'll see, especially nowadays. A lot of disconnections with the shag kind of shapes that are happening. So I'm seeing this quite a lot. I don't think I invented this sectioning pattern. I just think it's something that I came up with to do this haircut. I'm sure it's been done before. But as you can see, I've sectioned from the higher point of the occipital ridge. And then followed that natural ridge all the way down to right behind the ear in that mastoid area. And then I've sectioned right from the apex, or the back of the apex, the top of the head, right down to right behind the ear. So that separates this entire back and first part of the side area. And then we've left the front. I've got these little panels here in the temporal areas. Again, these are something that are important within these shapes. This is something that I will disconnect, so I can keep the weight and the length throughout the front. And then we've got these two panels through the top. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start through this underneath area, and I'm going to cut what's known as a concave layer. So I'm going to take this pretty short on the inside, and that's why I'm at the occipital area, and I'm at the top of the occipital. Because I'm going to make this the shorter area. Remember, short hair is stronger than long hair. So it's actually going to push out from the head shape, and I will take the weight out, so I'll keep the length. And then whatever I hang over the top, I will get lift and I'll get volume from that. So that's what really gets you that texture on the inside afterwards, because you've got somewhere to put it. And then I'll work a convex layer over the top of it, and then that'll work through into the front. I'll determine what shape I want to do as we go through. But let's send it to Kelly, because Kelly's with me.
Good morning. I'm going to do just a bunch of concave layers. What I've sectioned out is the front area. So everything that's like dipping down here in this part of the head shape, just so that to have like a really elongated bang. I'm not even going to touch that. And then I clipped out the length here as well. So what I'm going to be doing is just concave kind of pivotal layering throughout with the razor, just to give it that really broken look. And like when I was doing my research yesterday on all the haircuts, it was like this stuff was really short, this was really big. So I want to leave a lot of weight around the bottom here, but really give that a nice head hugging layer throughout, and then eventually just visually blend that in into the long bangs, to the seam bangs. So pretty simple sectioning that I did here.
Okay, so I've just got to figure out now how I'm going to cut this. It's going to be worked short to long on the inside, so realistically what I want to do is I want to work the shortest point being the fingertips, the longest point being the knuckles.
Someone asked, could you explain convex and concave?
Yes, convex is following the head shape. Go show them the diagram right there.
Where's it live?
To the wall.
To the wall, people. So convex follows the vertical contour of the head shape. So whatever's going on with your vertical contour and the head shape, this way, in the back as well, and this way, that's what you would do. Concave is just the opposite. So it can be shorter on the inside, longer on the exterior, with this way, and it can be this way. So it has many extremes. Concave is that in between. It's where you have shorter and longer pieces of hair within that layer. Whereas convex, it's all the same all the way through. So what you would call a uniformed layer, if you were like old school American beauty school kind of terminology. Remember, not everyone's gone to hair school in America, so we don't use the same terminology everywhere all over the world. But recently I've been seeing people say different things about concave and convex, and I just really feel it's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been made, just put new rims on it. So I'm taking my first section, and I'm going to elevate this section up towards the ceiling. So I place my fingers in the hair. What I don't do is I don't put my palm to face the head, because that doesn't feel great here, and it also pushes me really far forward. So I'm not really in control of the situation. So I want to stand upright, and I actually make sure I don't fall over, Kate. I make sure that the important finger, the famous one, is on your side, and the index finger is on my side. And my palm is actually facing me. So I don't have any like carpal tunnel issues. I'm not stretching the wrist when it's not supposed to. You keep doing that over the years, and then you'll end up like most hairdressers over 40 that have carpal tunnel. So what I'm doing is I'm just elevating up to where I want to be. So there's the length, so I can keep that length if I wish, right there. That's the bottom length right there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to just kind of swoop through. What I don't do is I don't scoop out this way and then lift up, because then you'll see I'm not really going to layer it that much. So really I kind of just lift the elbow up. Try not to bring that into it. So it's all about the elbow. So once I've got my fingers in there, I lock my fingers and move them through all the way up to what I want to keep. And then I can work the inside. Well, obviously, the shorter you go with this, the closer you are to the head shape. So sometimes I've seen people do this, but really it's hard to get that angle, isn't it? Coming in this way and going in shorter. I feel it's so much better to work to the length instead of from it, because you can now protect whatever length you want. You know, if I had a really more extreme length, I could work from this and just keep moving that elbow up towards the ceiling. So that's kind of the length that I'm going to go for. So really, this concave layer that we've got here, this skinny layer, that's what concave layers are, they're skinny. Whereas the convex is a little bit more fuller. All right, so this is a leaner layer. So with this being shorter, this now pushes out, as you can see. So it's kind of acting like a fake graduation, but I'm keeping the length. Remember, graduation is going to be this way. It's the opposite to concave layer. So all I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to bring everything into that first section, because I want to maintain as much weight and length through here as possible. The whole point of this is it's going to be kind of like undercut. So undercut is basically, it's like liposuction. I'm just taking away weight, and then I'll add this over the top. So this is great for people that have lots of hair. You could do this in your classic layered shapes and have the, you know, like a natural kind of classic round layer over the top of it, so that it's not so heavy and bulky in the back. Remember, round layers are always going to leave the back the heaviest.
So what I did here is I'm going to be working off of just kind of pivoting triangular sections going around into that one section that I clipped away. And the way I picked my guide is right at the top of the head and right where the big thick of the whorl is here. And I brought that over so that when it dries, it's going to kind of sit just like right where that hairline is. So I took this first layer, like my guide, pretty short, because I want that to kind of like push all of that down and forward. So I want this to be really, really tight and head hugging. So I'm starting there. And then now I'm just going to be kind of taking these pivotal sections going around this whole thing and then concave out with this whole section. But probably about an inch wide with each of my sections here, and making sure that I don't come into my disconnect for this front area, because I'm going to blend that in afterwards. So just taking that diagonal section here into my guide I'm gonna flip my razor over this way and then just really exaggerate that up into the length. Ooh. So I'm gonna pivot the doll head as I go around and just kind of be doing that same motion all the way around, blending that short piece and pulling this straight out from the head. Flip the razor open. Bring that around. It was, when we had gotten the request about doing emo hair, I was just telling DJ that I was going through my closet and all my old hair stuff to find my photo book that I used to keep at my station before social media was really a thing. Couldn't find it.
You kept it at your station?
Yeah.
Amazing. We were just talking about that too.
Photo book of all of the haircuts that I could do,
Yeah, you had a lookbook.
Yeah, a lookbook.
That was the thing, yeah.
And then just thinking about the techniques that I used to use and trying to kind of modernize that and use it with the tool, because I didn't cut with the razor then, which I should have, but wasn't as popular, I think, or it just wasn't in the place where they were teaching it. So
No, I think social media has helped that, because you'd always have those classic old school people that would stop it,
right,
because they controlled what was the trend within the product companies.
exactly.
So I've moved on to the other side. I'm not changing my body position. I'm going to stay in the same spot. So working my vertical sections, and I'm just over directing everything into the center. So ideally I would love the mirror to be where you guys are at right now, looking at this. So I can see my over direction into the center. So it helps to have a smaller pair of scissors, or shears, whatever you call them, so that you can get into that area. Big advocate right now of working with a smaller pair of scissors. That's kind of where I've gone full circle on that one. So it's a stationary guideline, so realistically I could have brought all of this in 2 sections if I wanted to, because I can condense once it's stationary. But there's just something about making sure every single section is perfect and going through that process. It's very important. That's how you achieve precision, is taking that time. You take it for granted, then you can expect there to be slight mistakes within what you're doing. So I rely on muscle memory, but I also rely on that mirror. That's one of the big things I always try to convey in my hands-on classes. We use the mirror. So that's why when we teach classes here in San Diego, we only allow 8 students, because we have 8 mirrors. So you can see I've kept all of the mannequin's length. Obviously it's going to be softer, but that's the whole point. I don't really want a harsh edge to this softer interior. The harsh edge probably comes with the bangs, the fringe area. So now you can see when I turn this, we've got quite a lot of body in there, a little bit of lift in there. So I could have gone even shorter with that, and that would push out even more, like so. I'm happy with this one, yeah. So now I can move into the crown area and cut over this. So this is like one haircut and it's done. So that's the whole point of using disconnections. It's more than one haircut going on. It's a combination of a few different things. It's like wearing layers of clothing. Like right now, Kelly's not wearing layers of clothing, so she has no dimension whatsoever. Just kidding.
One.
That's like a connected haircut, if you get what I'm saying. Whereas you start adding all these different layers, they move independently. So it's like this shirt's going to move independently to this. Whereas that's all one, so it moves together. Plenty of dimension. All right, so I'm happy with that. I can just do one of those kind of fake measurement things that people love to do. I'm not really a big fan of this. I see people doing that all the time. I'd rather look at it when it falls because I'm not going to walk around all day doing this. Do you know what I mean? And that person's not going to do that. It's going to fall. That's how you see balance. So that's what I want to look at. So as you can see now, from that layer that I have right there, all the way down here, that's the density that I've just removed. So if I was to just leave all that nape area like it was, then we leave it thick and heavy. So that's why it can have that mullet effect if you're not careful, where it's super heavy and it's actually pulling that person backwards. When you do that, that opens up all of this, right? So if you don't want to show any of that, most people don't, then that's a way to go about it. So I'm going to turn it around because now I'm going to work this over. And I'd rather work from the bottom up, knowing where that length is, and follow the head shape through. If I work from the top down, I'll most likely concave layer over a concave layer. Right now I'm going to cut convex. So following that now vertical aspect of the head shape through that crown area. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah? Questions?
Yeah, but you answered it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I'm just using that guide that I created right here and just following that around, just pivoting. Really easy, really similar, you know, same body shape as I'm going through and same technique. As I come around here into just making it kind of like a pinwheel coming all the way around, just releasing all of this here. It's like I have a nice heavy bottom. You get all teasing.
Heavy bum.
Sorry.
That's Katie's fault for laughing. You set me off.
I'm sorry.
Butts.
Fascinated by the butts. Alright, so I'm going to cut this over this, guys, now. So you see that underneath? There it is. I'm just going to let that fall. So now I'm going to get an idea as to where this is going to hit over it. So I want it over this layer, that's for sure. I kind of want it to sit in right in that area. So that's where I'm going to aim for. So looking at where that's going to fall. If you're not so sure, guys, you can always cheat. Pull this down, cut it where you want it to be, then you lift it up, use it as your guide.
Is it really cheating though, or is it just working smarter?
That's the thing. I say it because it's known as cheating. But to me nowadays, is it really cheating?
Yeah.
Is it just working a bit smarter? I think the thing is to understand that the classic ways of cutting hair, like the sassoon way, that's probably the hardest possible way you could go about doing something. So in my world, anything else would have been cheating. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it was perceived. But I've been a teacher of haircutting for almost 30 years now. And I've been out of sassoon for 20 years, almost. So the evolution of the educator as well, and how to do things has changed. So that's what I'm looking at first. I might go a little bit shorter than that. I always like to cut it longer. You can always cut more off. I'm going to do a couple of sections at that and see what that starts to look like. My over direction now is not into the center. I don't need to do that through the top area. It would drop too heavy too quickly. So I do that through the underneath because we don't have the hair through here. So I pull everything into the middle so it keeps some of this through this back behind the ear area. Now what I want to do over the top of it is I want a really nice flow of weight that works from back to front. So to do that, I'm going to pull the hair straight back to the wall behind the mannequin. That's pretty standard for a really good flow of weight from back to front. If I over direct to the center, it's too aggressive, it drops too quickly towards the front.
So all of that layering is done. But what I'm looking at right now is this back shape here. And I want to get a little bit more lift out of this, and because we're going for that scene look, I'm just going to take this crown section here and kind of give that just a little bit more bump. So I'm gonna elevate this up. And I'm gonna really go in and take out some big chunks in here.
Any recommendations on affordable razors?
I mean, this handle that I have, I think it's like $100, maybe $120 now. I think that's pretty good. You know,
Compared to scissors?
yeah, and then the guard or the blades that I order, I have a Amazon subscription to the blades. I just got some earlier. It comes in 2 packs, and I think it's like maybe $32 for 40 blades. So as far as like affordability, this one, the feather plie plier. Can you see that on there? It's hard to read. It's a little. I could put. I'll put a link on my Instagram. Kelly does hair for it.
We can throw it up after this.
Yeah,
Alright,
throw it up.
we'll put it on the
I know that Hairbrained sells them, but I also know that people have gotten them on Amazon. All right. So I'm gonna move into the front bangs.
So just to add to that one, 2 places you can go to get good razors, guys, is you go to Hairbrained or you can go to Steps. Steps Hair, they have their own razor too, and it's very similar to what you're using.
I think the blade is like the one that fits in most of these, you know, straight edge razors. I want to really exaggerate this connection because I want this long. Look at that. So seen. But I want to have some blending in there.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
going for the longer front.
Yeah, all the way long. So now that I have this disconnection, I can see from here, which is where my layers are, and there, I want to blend that out. So I'm just going to go really exaggerated with the razor.
Hey, words.
Morning time. So I'm just going to go over the top here, straight down this middle section. And I think this is one of the fun things about cutting with the razor is the lines that you can create are so much more exaggerated. Okay. Let me see. So there's my guide that's going to fall out. I'm going to come in underneath into that length. That's going to be my final all the way out. And then I'm just going to continue that, taking these sections and pulling it straight up into the ceiling and exaggerating that connect there.
So I ended up going a bit shorter than what I initially put in. Again, start longer so you can look at it and see. Don't always go down to what you think, because then it might be too short for you. So again, just working that through the crown area. And then my over direction is straight back that way, and my elevation is just following through all the way through. So 90 degrees in a sense, all the way up to here.
How do you stay mindful of your posture when cutting?
How do I stay mindful? I always think about what I'm doing. So it's very important that you don't just take things for granted. So for example, one of the big things for me is understanding what my feet are doing. See, a lot of people tend to go for comfort, so they sit or stand in different places to cut hair. So in this instance, I want my shoulders. I want my shoulders, the males here.
Males here.
Really.
It's like, why are they screaming?
So I want my shoulders to be parallel to what I'm working. So where I'm sending that hair to, I want my shoulders to live within that. Just like I want my fingers to live within the side, the shape of the section, the angle of the section. So my feet do that, because if my feet move, then my shoulders move, right? I'm not going to overcompensate and do that. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to be like this. That's comfortable. So if you remember, like the 3 positions when you're working on the outside of your fingers are going to be this. or this, or this. So I've already done that on the underneath, right? So now I'm working through with this one, and I'm actually working up to this one. So I'm always staying within the angle of the section that I have with my fingers. I'm keeping my shoulders parallel and my feet too. Again, your feet govern what your body does. So if you don't put your feet in the right place, you will not bring the hair to the right place. Great question.
I think also, at least for me, like knowing like when I'm trying to get into like a certain corner or you're pulling the hair a certain way and your body feels awkward, like terribly awkward, maybe just take a step, recomb, and really like be mindful about what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think learning from DJ, pull away from what you want to keep. If you can just take that beat in the middle of a haircut just to remind yourself of that, it can change like the whole dynamic.
It simplifies it.
Yeah.
Because our brains love to overcomplicate it, you know? So we think there's a billion things to do. If you always remember, just pull away from what you want to keep. Just remember, you're either keeping, building, or removing.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on unguarded razors versus guarded razors?
So I think like I prefer to work with an unguarded razor. I feel like it's kind of equivalent to working with like a texturizing shear versus like a regular shears or scissors. The guarded razor is a great way to start once you get into like using the razor. I think it gives you a little bit of safety and kind of like makes you feel more confident with how the tool actually works. You know, the unguarded razor, it's the way that you hold it with is different than the guarded razor, which is just flat this way. So I think it's just another type of tool that like hairdressers can use to create different looks. You know, like I think try the guarded razor first, but it definitely doesn't have as much power as far as like slicing and cutting than the straight razor does. Yeah, okay. So I'm liking how that looks. Lots of layers in here.
Someone wants to know for the fringe, were you doing like pie sections or just...
Oh, just straight.
Okay.
Straight up this way. So all of this should be... Let's cross check.
Is it square?
Is it?
I was gonna do that, really.
I'm a little longer on the right side here.
I can't tell.
Okay, good, great. It looks perfect then.
I'm cross-checking, so
Uh-oh.
Is it square?
no. Nothing's square in this head. But people are going to think that's square that I've just done there, aren't they? See, that's the concave layer right through the top there, shorter on the inside, falling longer towards the exterior. As we move down, my sections go through the crown and now they're actually more horizontal. So when I'm checking this now, I'm checking the shape of the haircut, and as you can see, I brought it back to the wall, so I've achieved the wall. So again, people are going to call that square because when they see that, they see something square. To me, that's actually a rectangle, all right? But this is shorter here, this is longer here, so in the scheme of things, that's a triangular shape. So how you pull it out here, don't confuse that with the shape. The shape is how it falls. So as you can see, it's shorter at the center, it's going to get heavier towards the front. So what that's done is that's kept all this nice weight behind the ear where we don't have any hair. So now as I work through this top area, I make the decision on do I want to keep the shape continuing to get triangular and get longer towards the front. So if I was going to do this haircut and the client didn't want a fringe or bangs or a pony, as it's known in Germany, then I would continue this angle to continue to get longer. I'm actually going to work this angle now through. So I'm going to follow the head shape. So now I'm at the top of the apex, I'm now going to go downhill and follow this part of the head shape. And I'm still going to use that same elevation now. So what was over direction back is now elevation up to the ceiling, so that we can keep that nice and consistent. If I bring it into the center, then that's going to do that, right? But it's not going to match with the crown if I do that. So there's no fluidity. So I don't just want to change my elevation, I want it to be the same as what this was.
So I brought that braided section down. What I did here in the front is I just did a little bit of freestyling so I can see where everything's kind of sitting. I want everything in front of the ear to kind of stay where it's at. So by doing this, having these kind of clumped away, then I know that I'm not gonna cut into it much. But what I am wanting to do is really accentuate this area here, which is right over the ear. With this, you know, if this person had a shoulder, I would kind of go to like right where the shoulder bend is, and then cut like a notch into it so that that hair will fall like that. So knowing that I have just this little bit of hair here, I'm just going to kind of take a triangular section and notch that out so that we have hair that hangs down in the back and then hair that hangs down in the front, and nothing that's going to like be sitting kind of wonky on top of the shoulder.
So working up to that apex, following the head shape, and now bringing that down into the front. So definite bangs, definite fringe going on through here, because as you can see, this is going to fall shorter through the front. So we have our private page starting next Friday, I think it is, the 1st. April 1st, it's not April Fool's for us. So our private page will start, the enrollment will start on the 1st. I think our first class will be on Wednesdays the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get full access to our private page on the 1st, enrollment will start. And you get to follow us around wherever we go teaching. You also get access to all of our pre-recorded and live stuff that we do on Instagram. And you'll also get free access to our online multi-camera classes that we do here. We do one a month here out of the factory. We usually do them on Zoom, so they're, you know, you can have multi-cameras and all that kind of stuff. So we just did a theory one in Shags and More recently. Our next one's going to be next month. It's going to be the French bob, right? We're going to explore the little box bob kind of shape for a few hours. You can sign up for that. That will go on sale this week, actually. You can sign up for that if you want, or you get that with your membership, with your subscription to our private page. So as you can see, I'm just continually lifting this up. It's not a difficult haircut. That's the whole point. You know, my job at Paul Mitchell was to create haircuts that were easy to do for the masses to reproduce. Really been enjoying watching the Andy Warhol diaries. I don't know if anyone's been watching that. One of the great things that we get from Andy Warhol was the fact that he just used repetition all the time and found a simpler way to achieve his art. And that's kind of like how I like to think of what we do.
I missed the first side.
Okay, you got the first side. So I'm going to show you right here. So I really just kind of created this pocket right here with these really short bits right over the ear. So on this side, I'll click this so I'm showing you. Just as the hair is sitting in its natural state, you can see where that little triangle of a pocket is right over the ear. And I really want to open that up and exaggerate that so that this isn't pushing any of the hair, because we want like width down here. So just taking this really loose triangle section over the ear. Clip this away. And then I'm pulling this out from the head and then pushing back a little bit to see where the bend starts. And then that's where I'm gonna start layering, because that's what's gonna give it that little kick right there. If we went closer to the head, then it would either stick straight out or lay super flat, but we want to kind of like, you know, show that off with the waves. So I'm gonna go in right there. And then really pull that out.
You can really tell her head's hollow.
Huh?
When you do that, it's like
The rhythm. The rhythm. So then it just gives that little pop right there with that pocket for the shoulder. Kind of pushes that out. So then that leaves this hair to be able to kind of like come in, either sit behind, or you can pull that in and sit in front and it's not super clumpy around the ear.
Are convex layers the same as round layers always?
No. I think when people say round layers, it depends on what you think round and where round lives. So if you're thinking that from here down that's round, it does look round, but that's a convex layer. Round in haircutting is this way. So it's the shape of the haircut. So it's understanding what each dimension is. There's not just one dimension in haircutting. So it's not just what you see vertically, it's what you see horizontally as well. So to me, round is the shape. It's the descending or the distribution of weight from front to back or back to front. So no, based on your terminology, that's not what I would say.
And I kind of had a thought with where you're talking about how this is a really simple haircut, you know, to do. It's also like the style that we're going for, you know, you really want to think about your end game and what kind of look that you're going for. And with, I think both of us kind of going for that, at least for me, I'm going for this like really broken kind of punk, like, you know, scene where it's like you just kind of like chopped it off. Of course, technically I'm much more mindful of it, but having that finish and knowing that like people were just pulling their hair forward and chopping it off, kind of like what you're seeing is like a wolf cut on TikTok where everybody's putting their hair in ponytails and chopping it off. But if we could elevate that to make it look so much better and actually sit really well without like having to do a million things to it, that's kind of the goal, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
It looks like you did it yourself, but it's actually doing what it's supposed to do, like a hairdresser did it.
Professionally disheveled.
Yeah, disheveled elegance.
Yes.
That's the word. It's a haircut that we used to do it without Sassoon. It's called disheveled elegance. But there was just like layers that were elegant
Yeah, okay.
instead of being messy.
Put this blade down.
All right, so these two little pieces through here, I'm going to leave them. They don't get joined in. So now I'm going to just have a peek at what this looks like and see if I want to come through the front and put some sort of fringe or bangs, as we say here in America. Or I don't say it, but some do.
Sometimes.
They have different names all over the world for these different areas on the head shape. So definitely going to come through here and do some fringe work, because it really, to me, doesn't hit that kind of emo look. Because this is the kind of scene I'm going for. I'm going for that hard fringe bang emo look, not the side swept bang, I think, which you're going with, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the opposite version of it.
Someone asked, would this work on someone with really fine hair?
And I think you've answered your question there. Is that a trick question? Because obviously layering is a removal of weight. So really you wouldn't want to do this on someone with fine hair. Not really a great look. Stay away from layers when you're dealing with finer textures of hair. So I'm going to come through just fringe panel here. Originally what I would have done with this would be I would dry everything iron everything, and then I would cut the fringe completely freehand afterwards in the comb with a bit of elevation to really get that blunt effect. But I'm going to come in and cut it more technically. Then I'll dry everything off, I'll iron everything off, which I'll probably do that live after this live, so you guys can see the process of what I would do and how I finish it. Let me just adjust that. But we'll be back next week as well, right? We're doing another one next week.
Yeah.
That's the last one before we move to Knowledge Destroys Fear, our private page. We will still do stuff on this page, but the majority of our stuff is going to move to Knowledge Destroys Fear. So again, that's going to be subscription based, and you get loads of stuff for that. You can get like filmed versions of our live classes, so you won't miss out. And you'll get discounts on our in-person classes that we do. So, just working the standard kind of fringe panel. That's just worked from the apex down to the precision. I've gone a little further back because I want more of a fringe in this area. So to do the fringe, we've got to think about what we want to do here. We want it to be on the blunter scale of things, but we want a little bit of a bevel to it. We want some bevel so that when it falls into the skin, onto the face, not just blunt like one length. So I'm not going to cut it down here in one length. I'm going to use a little bit of elevation to cut this. Now if I come up here, then I'm going to layer it. So that's going to curve, right? That's going to flick, it's going to feather back because it's going to make this fall shorter than what this falls. So if I come down here a little bit more, and use the whole thing that we know with elevation, the closer towards zero, the heavier it's going to be. So I'm going to do that. So all I'm going to do is just kind of come in and put a little bit of an angle to that, like a graduation almost. And then just let that fall and see where it falls. We'll go up just a touch. The whole point is that the person wouldn't be able to see. It was definitely, it wasn't just a look, it was a mood.
Yeah.
I'm still
You
living
know, I
it.
think lots of people's like social anxieties come from that era. Just not able to deal with the public. Yeah, Katie, we're trying to get you out of your shell.
I don't want to. I've had bangs for 33 years.
I'm bringing everything into the center. So we're going to have this kind of a feeling to it. So almost like a concave.
Someone asked, oh, it went away.
See, look at that. Nice and blunt, still got that angle to it. But it's beveled now because I've used that slight elevation to it. If I cut it down here, it's not going to have that bevel, so it won't fall in. So if you used to watch me back in the day on stage, I'd do this with elevation in the comb. It just looked better on stage to do that. You know, instant gratification. Cutting on hair on the stage is a bit of a show. It's not always reality. So this is kind of how I would come at this. Again, if I want more of a curtain fringe right now, I would cut from here to here. I'd follow the head shape so that the hair actually curtains off to the side. If I cut it lower, it's not going to curtain. You use your thumbs to do that. So I'm trying to let the hair do the job for me.
What are your views on point cutting during the design cut?
It just depends on the effect. So if you're looking for that looser tussle kind of effect, kind of like with the razor, then go ahead and point cut this. Tony and Guy made an absolute fortune off this. Do you know what I mean? Tony and Guy to me is the Vidal Sassoon, but point cutting and more texture within the shape. But I'm going to achieve it with precision, and then I can come in afterwards and I can start to take it more visually afterwards. That's how I like to work it.
Yeah, so I'm in my detailing stage now, and what I'm seeing is I really like how this is clumping right over their eye, but this is just kind of like heavy, not really having a place, still kind of wanting to fall lumpy, and I want to have that be blended a little bit more. So I'm just kind of going in and taking out these huge chunks just so that there's like a pocket or almost like a parking space. You see how that just like flowed and separated so much differently after I took out this like that short piece in there? So I've really been liking blending in like a little bit of a clunkier, heavier like movement with my scissors to kind of like enhance some of the broken pieces. So like I want this one to have a place to sit over a little bit more. So I need to remove what's behind it so that it has a place to sit. So if I move that out of the way, it's this right here. So I'm gonna come innards, and then just kind of swoop that out so that now this has a place to sit independently.
Cute.
Yeah, and then we got the hard side part here, which is like quintessential. But now we have this kind of long tendril here, so I do want to have that a little bit more
I nearly
balanced.
wore my hair like this
Yeah.
today.
Did you? Bangs
I was
down?
gonna wear it bangs down just for the.
No.
But then I was like, no, Katie will just kill me for it.
I blow dried my bangs this morning a little bit.
Oh, you in your hair?
Did my hair. So, okay, so looking visually here, I want to add something because this is kind of where that this part is kicking, so we want something to kind of kick right around there in the same spot. So just kind of picking out this and then watching where the bend is. And I'm going to go really heavy here and just kind of cut a line into that.
I'm done.
Yay!
All I have to do now is dry it and style it, finish it. Which is, like I said, I'll do that for you guys so you guys can see the process of it. I'll go live again afterwards when I dry this for you. But you can see the shapes in there, very tousled, quintessential noughties scene cut, which to me is just an extension of the 80s, like the mid 80s kind of scene, like hair as well.
Yeah, I'm liking this.
So I'll work through this afterwards, but I'll show you guys that on the live. But I hope you guys enjoyed that quick shape. You can get a lot of expansion of this hanging over. A lot of space in there too because of those disconnections. So there's 3 different things going on in this haircut. And what I liked when I did this at Paul Mitchell, we would use that as color placement as well. So that nape area and these 2 front pieces could be the same color and then a darker color over the top maybe. And you get a really cool effect, especially with all this hanging over it. And afterwards I will come through and I'll point into that so we'll see a lot more separation and softness as it falls and more texture. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that one from me.
Someone asked about the scissors.
Ones I'm using?
When working with different textures, do you change the length of your scissors?
No, not really. You got to remember, like, all those things that you're told, they're just for you to buy another pair of scissors. That's all it is. You know, I've been around this industry a long time. I grew up in this industry, so I've been around it my entire life. So I know what sales pitches people have and all that kind of stuff. I just feel that, like, Vidal once said it, and he said it really cool, because it's like, all you need, if you're traveling the world, is a comb and a pair of scissors. You don't need anything else, maybe a couple of clips, right? But the more stuff you have, the more you have to carry around. So it's each to their own, whatever you like. You know, I love shoes, so I have loads of pairs of shoes, but I could basically wear 1 pair of shoes if I wanted to all the time, right? So you get scissors if you want to. I've got loads of scissors too, but I only pretty much use 1 pair through the process. You know, to me lately I like to use a smaller scissor because I only cut from here to here or here to here anyway, so I don't really need to be that far away from my hands with the larger scissor. The closer I am with each hand, the more control I have. The further away I am, the less control. That's a gravity thing. So It's each to their own. You know, scissors are like shoes. You've got to try them on. There's lots of different brands out there, lots of different styles that you can use.
What about swivel scissors?
Is that what you're asking, or they?
Someone.
Swivel scissors? Don't have anything against them. If it makes your thumb feel better, use your swivels. Mizutani have swivel thumb scissors. So does Shark Fin. You know, they're not new. They're not unique anymore. I feel they're like more normal now.
Oh, sorry.
That's what, I'm just looking at it
Oh,
through the camera.
I was like, what are
We're
you
just
doing?
looking.
I'm just looking. Yeah? What do you think? I love it.
I think it looks cool.
I think it looks cool. I haven't done a good emo scene cut in a while. So anybody in San Diego wants an emo cut, come on down.
In fact, most of my clients are hairdressers,
Yeah.
and I guarantee someone's going to want this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, these girls are so cool.
So we'll finish these off so you guys can see them, because we would love for you guys to see the finished results of them. I think Kelly's is almost pretty much there anyway.
I mean, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Wake and shake and then be real sad.